She drained my dad's entire savings account, packed her bags while he was at work, moved straight in with the guy from her gym. And the first call my dad made, the very first person he reached out to, was the daughter he hadn't shown up for in 10 years. Me. So, I had a choice to make. And what I chose? Stick with me, because by the end of this, you're gonna understand exactly why it was the most powerful decision I've ever made in my life. Okay, a little background, and I promise I'm not gonna drag this out, because the backstory here is actually important. My parents divorced when I was 9. It was fine. Mom was incredible. We figured it out. My dad stayed involved for a while. Weekends, holidays, the usual. Not perfect, but it was something. And then, when I was 14, he met Sandra. Now I want to be real with y'all. I was a teenager. I was not the easiest kid in the world, I know that. But there is a massive difference between a kid being difficult and an adult deciding that kid is just not worth the effort anymore. Because that's what happened. Sandra had 2 kids of her own, and the second she walked into my dad's life, it was like a switch flipped. Suddenly there were family dinners I wasn't invited to, vacations I found out about on Facebook, holidays that didn't include me, not because of scheduling, but because nobody picked up the phone. I remember being 16, Christmas morning. I called my dad. He picked up, sounded distracted, said, "Hey, honey, we're just sitting down to eat. Can I call you back?" I waited by that phone all day. He never called back. And that right there, that one moment, became the pattern for the next 10 years of my life. Her son's baseball game was more important than my high school graduation dinner. Her daughter's bridal shower got 3 weekends of planning. My college graduation, my dad showed up an hour late and left before the reception. Because Sandra wasn't feeling well. I tried. I really, genuinely tried. For years. And every single time, something with Sandra or her kids took priority, and I was the afterthought. The option. The backup plan he'd get to when he had a minute. By my mid-20s, I'd accepted it. I stopped calling as much. I built my own life, my own career, my own friendships, my own chosen little family, and I told myself it was fine. It wasn't fine. But I was surviving. And I thought that was as good as it was gonna get. Okay, so fast forward. I'm 27. And out of nowhere, my dad starts texting me more. Calling more. Asking about my life. Actually listening to my answers. And I'll be honest, it felt good. That little girl who waited by the phone on Christmas morning, she was still in there. And she was really glad her dad was calling. But I kept a wall up because I'd been here before. The re-engagement phase. He'd come back around, I'd let myself get hopeful, Sandra would need something, and he'd disappear again. I was not gonna fall for that twice. What I didn't know yet was that things with Sandra had started falling apart. Her kids had grown up and moved out, and apparently, without them as a buffer, some of her less charming qualities became a lot harder for my dad to ignore. I heard things. From my aunt. From his old friends. Sandra had been spending money at a level that was genuinely alarming. Designer bags, spa trips, credit cards my dad didn't even know existed until the statements started coming in. She was also spending a lot of time with a man from her gym, a fact that multiple people apparently knew about before my dad did. And then, one morning, my aunt calls me. Sandra had cleaned out their joint savings account, every dollar, packed her bags while my dad was at work, moved straight in with the gym guy. My dad came home to an empty closet, an empty bank account, and a note. That's it, a note. 2 days later, my phone rings. It's him, and he is crying, like really crying. And the first thing he says to me is, "She's gone. She took everything. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't really have anyone. I don't really have anyone." Order core, order core, order core. Y'all, I had 10 years worth of things I could have said in that moment. I could have listed every single birthday he missed, every Christmas I spent wondering why I wasn't enough, every time Sandra's kids were the priority and I was the afterthought. I could have said, "You had someone. For 10 years. You had me. You just chose not to show up. I could have hung up that phone. And a part of me, the 16-year-old girl who waited all day on Christmas, she wanted to. She really did. But I didn't. And not because I was being the bigger person in some fake performative way. I didn't do it for him. I did it because of something I realized right there in that moment. Something that completely changed how I saw the whole situation. He wasn't calling me because he finally understood what he'd done. He was calling me because Sandra was gone, and I was the only one left. I was the backup plan. Still, and I had to decide, right then and right there, what kind of woman I was going to be. Surgor score for the more score. So here is exactly what I did and what I didn't do. Because both matter. Step 1. I told him the truth first. I didn't comfort him. I didn't swoop in. I didn't say it's okay, I'm here, don't worry about it. I said, Dad, I love you, and I'm not going anywhere. But I need you to hear something first. You chose her over me for 10 years. Not once. Not twice. Consistently, for a decade. I'm not saying that to hurt you right now. I'm saying it because if we are going to have a real relationship going forward, we have to be honest about what happened. You can't unchoose someone for 10 years and just pick up where you left off. That is not how this works. Silence. A long silence. And then he said, You're right. I know you're right. And that, right there, was the beginning. Step 2. I did not rescue him. Even though every part of me wanted to. His finances were wrecked. Sandra had left behind credit card debt he hadn't even known existed. He was going to have to sell the house. And that little girl inside me wanted to fix it all. To be the good daughter, to prove I was better than Sandra, to save him. But I didn't. Because that's not love, that's enabling. And it would have taught him nothing. Instead, I helped him find a therapist. A real one who specifically worked with people going through late-in-life relationship trauma. I connected him with a financial advisor to clean up the mess Sandra left behind. And I set a boundary that surprised even me. I called him every week. On my schedule. Not on demand. Not every time he was spiraling. Once a week, consistently, on my terms. Step 3. I made him show up differently. Because here's what I knew. That my dad is a good man who made 10 years of bad choices. And good men can learn. But only if you stop covering for them. So I stopped making it easy. If he wanted to be in my life, he had to actually be in my life. He had to ask about my work and listen to the answer. He had to remember things I told him. He had to show up, not just call when he was lonely. And slowly, like really slowly, he did. He remembered my work anniversary. He sent me flowers on my birthday, first time in 11 years. He came to visit me at my apartment. The one I bought myself, in my name, with money I saved while he was busy funding Sandra's spa trips. He sat at my table. He ate food I cooked. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one waiting. He was waiting. For me to open the door. Step 4. I let the truth be what it was. I didn't badmouth Sandra to him. I didn't keep score out loud. I didn't remind him every conversation of what he'd done wrong. I just kept building, kept showing up as exactly who I was, and I let the contrast do the work for me. Because here's the thing about Sandra leaving. She didn't just take the money. She took the illusion. The story my dad had been telling himself about who she was. Gone. And once that illusion breaks, there's nothing left to protect. And what he saw, when he looked around after it broke, was me. The daughter who was still there. Still whole, still standing, having built an entire life without him. Step 5. The moment I knew it was over, about 6 months after that first phone call, we're having lunch. Just the two of us, an actual, real, sit-down lunch. And he looks at me across the table, and he says, I wasted so much time. I don't know how you don't hate me. And I thought about it. For real. And I said, I did. for a while, but hating you was making me miserable and it wasn't affecting you at all. So I decided to just build something better instead. He didn't say anything for a second. And then he said, "She told me you were dramatic, that you exaggerated, that you were too sensitive." And I just looked at him and said, "I know." And he said, "I believed her. I know that too." And that was the most honest conversation my dad and I had ever had in our entire lives. Here is the part I need you to really hear. My revenge was not watching him suffer. It was not turning my back on him the way he turned his back on me. It wasn't giving him a taste of his own medicine, even though Lord knows part of me wanted to. My revenge was this. Sandra left him broke, alone, and completely blindsided, and the only person still standing there with her hand out was the daughter he'd spent a decade overlooking. She thought she replaced me. She didn't replace me. She just delayed me. Last Thanksgiving, the first real Thanksgiving we'd had together in 11 years, my dad sat at my table. In my home, with my people, the life I built, completely on my own, while he was busy choosing someone else. He cried when he left. And I stood at my door and watched him go, and I felt something I hadn't felt since I was 9 years old. I felt like I had my dad back, my way, on my terms, in my time. That's not just winning, that's freedom. So here's what I really want you to take from this, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. The most powerful thing you can do when a parent chooses someone else over you is not to fall apart when they come back. It's to make sure that when they do come back, they come back to someone so deeply rooted, so completely whole, that their absence couldn't touch what you built. I didn't need my dad to suffer. I needed him to see. And he finally did. So if you are sitting in your own version of this right now, if you have your own Sandra, your own decade of being the afterthought, please hear me on this. Stop waiting for them to come around. Start building the life that makes their eventual return the second best thing that ever happened to you. Because the best thing is who you became without them. If this one hits somewhere real, if you've got your own version of this story, drop it in the comments. Even one line. I read every single one. And if you're not subscribed yet, girl, what are you waiting for? I post a brand new story every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Workplace revenge, family betrayal, women who got written off and came all the way back. You deserve stories that remind you of your own strength. So hit that subscribe button. I'll see y'all. Take care of yourselves.